This is Gemara Zevachim, Daf Samoch Tes. And we're holding on Samoch Tes Amud Aleph. We are 4 lines from the top. We're going to start with a quick finishing of the previous sugya. I apologize, we didn't wrap it up. It's literally 2 lines with a raya to Rav Yechon. And once again, we like all the learning to be an incredible schos refuah shalema for Gavriel Simcha ben Miriam Ahuva P'soich Sha'ar Chayli Yisrael. So as mentioned, we begin with a quick addendum to the previous sugya, quick raya, 4 lines from the top. Tanya Kavase de Rav Yechon Malka Zar Malka Apostle. If Malika is done by a Zar and an Kayin, if Malika is done by a Kayin who is Apostle, Ha Pigol, or if the carbon becomes Pigol, Veha Naisar, or Naisar, Veha Tame, or Tame, Ein Mitamin Abeis Abliya. The halacha is it does not get the din of a nevela. It is not Mitame Abeis Abliya, which is precisely Shitas Rav Yochanan, that this oif in which Malika is done by a Zar does not contaminate via the Tuma Bebeis Abliya. And now we begin with a new sugya, a sugya, a related sugya, as they say. Amar Rav Yitzchak, Shamati, I heard, Shamati Shtayim, excuse me. I heard 2 things. Achas, number 1, Kimitzas Zar. One concerns the Kimitza of a Zar non-Kayin, V'achas Malika Zar. One concerns the Malika of a non-Kayin. Achas Teirid, V'achas Loi Teirid. So we begin with Rav Yitzchak teaching us that he has 2 different dinim he heard. One is the Kimitza of a Zar, one is the Malika of the Zar. One of them, the din is that it is Teirid, you take it off the Mizbeach even once you put it up. And one of them is Loi Teirid, you don't take it off. But says Rav Yitzchak, V'lo Yodano, I don't remember which is which. So I have these 2 halachas, I have these 2 dinim, but unfortunately I just can't recall which one is for which. So Amar Chizkiya teaches Chizkiya Mistavra Kimitza, that if the Kimitza, which again is the 3 fingers fall from a carbon mincha, is done by a Zar, Teirid has to come off the Mizbeach, but Malika, Loi Teirid. Okay, so Chizkiya teaches us that which is Mistaver, that which is logical. But now ask the Gemara, the obvious kasha or the Shaila, Ma'ishra Malika, what's the reason that Malika, you're not going to take down? The reason is the Yashna Bibama, a concept that we've had. Because there is Shaykhis of a Malika, of a Zar. There is a case in which it's kosher, a case in a Bama. So ask the Gemara, Kimitza Nami Yashna Bimama. The same thing is by Kimitza. Maybe you're going to tell me, it's not true. There's no such thing as Kimitza Bizar Bana Bama. Why? Because there's no din of a carbon mincha on a Bama. Problem is, guess what? Ein oifais nami bibama. Then I'll tell you the same thing. There's no such thing as a carbon oif on a Bama. Damar Rav Sheishes, the Divrei Oimer, Yesh Mincha Bibama, Yesh Oifais Bibama, the Divrei Oimer, Ein Mincha Bibama, Ein Oifais. So says the Gemara, I don't know what the difference is. So my time, so what is the reason that if there's no Mincha, there's no Oifais, if there's yes Oifais, if there's yes Mincha, there's yes Oifais? Zevachim, says the Pasuk, V'loi Menachais. Zevachim v'lo yoifais. So the same drasha that teaches us that a bama you don't bring a mincha is the same drasha that teaches us on a bama you don't bring an oif. So says the Gemara, Elaima, you know what I have to say? Ein kiddush bekli shares bemincha bebama. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you the chilik. Do you know why, according to Chizkiya, there's a difference between a mincha and an oif? The reason is because a mincha is no sheiches. It's not because a mincha is no sheiches to a bama like we originally thought, but rather the reason is that a mincha that goes into a kli shares does not get the kedusha to go in a bama, whereas a oif does, yes, and that's going to be the chilek to the mincha and the bama. And we continue at the 2 dots, about 15 lines down, where the Gemara quotes the next line of the Mishnah, Malak v'smal, oy ba'layla v'chulu. If there's a malika done in an inappropriate way, either it's done with the left hand, or it's done ba'layla, then the Mishnah taught us that the nevela is not mitame bebeis abliya. Tana Rabbanan teaches the Gemara, Yachal te malika, shehi lifnim mitama begadim bebeis abliya. I would think that a carbon knife that was done with a malika, but a not kosher malika, whether it's bismal, whether it's balayla, I would think that it's yes mitame begadim, and it's yes mitame beis abliya, meaning, let's remind ourselves, what does that mean? We would think it gets a din of a nevela, an animal killed without the appropriate shchita, and therefore it should be mitame. Talmud Leimar says the Torah nevela, and therefore, if it's not a proper nevela, an animal just killed, but rather it was killed via malika, even if the malika was sula, even if the malika was not done appropriately, it will not cause that it gets a din of an oif. Ask the Gemara, how do you see that from the pasuk? Hanami neveli, the kasha that I think has been plaguing us all since we started this sugya, says that I don't understand. When you have a kosher shchita, then it's not an avela. But if you did a non-kosher shchita or a non-kosher malika, if you did the malika with either your left hand or a time that doesn't work, so why does it not get a din of nevela? What's the difference if I shoot this thing dead or if I kill it with my fingernail? If it's not a kosher shchita, it's not a kosher shchita. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you what it is. Treifa. Says the Gemara, no. The pasuk says treifa. For the fact that the pasuk says treifa, from there we can learn out that it's an extra word. Torah did not have to say the word treifa. And from there, as the Gemara is going to see in Amud Beis, that extra word is going to show us that this level of shchita, of malika, will make it not a treifa. Now the Gemara explains weiter. So this extra word treif, what does it teach us? It teaches that just as a treifa is a case that does not make something mutter, which is aser, av kol shein materes is iser. So too, anytime does not matter the iser, that's what causes something to be a nevela. Yotza melika, so melika is excluded. Why? Shehi lifnim, because it is done inside the chatzar. And hoyel v'hi materes es iser, since it does at some level matter of the iser. Ein mitam is begadim bebeis abliya. Says the Gemara, there is a level that it is materes esa iser, and therefore, what level is that? The level being that if this not kosher malika was done, and then it was placed on the mizbeach, it stays there. So we see at some level, it does allow an iser to be taken off. Therefore, says the Gemara, it does not get the din of an avela, and therefore, in mitam megadim ubeis abliya. Hey, via Mailek, it continues the Gemara similarly. One who does a malika, kachim bachot, kachim outside the azara, umalechulin, or he does malika, he does a shchita, he kills the bird with the fingernail, bein mi bifnim, bein mi bachot, whether it's or outside the chatzar, but it's done on chulin, on not a carbon, hayil vein. Mater nes iser does not matter the iser. Therefore, it gets a regular din of nevela. There's no difference between that and shooting the bird dead. Mitam begadim bebeis abliya. Brisa number 1. Tani, we have another brisa. Yach leishchidas chulin levnim vekachem bein bivnim bein mimachot mitam bebeis abliya. I would think that these cases do create a nevela. Tam lemer nevela. Says Gemara, what does that help? Hanami nevela. This is also a nevela if you did the malika with the left hand the night. In any mannerism that's not being matir. El tam lemer treifa. Ma treifa shava b'fnim ki b'achutz. Then this is where the drasha is a little bit different. Avkol shavis b'fnim b'achutz. Any time that the way the bird is killed is equal between inside and outside, and therefore yasor shchitas chulin b'fnim v'kachem b'fnim b'achutz. Hayel v'loy shavim b'fnim b'achutz. Therefore, it does not get a din of avela in metam begadim and abeis abliya. So says the Gemara on this second drasha, on this Tanya Idach, says the Gemara, let's understand. I understand that when it says they're not the same inside and outside with regarding to chulin, that is understandable. Why is that understandable? Because as we're going to see, that let's wait. This is gonna Rashi here. I mean, we can just look at the Rashi. Rashi says, why is it Bishlam Achulin? Rashi towards the end of the narrow lines says Rashi Bishlam Achulin Shavsa Shchitas Befnim Ki Bachot Shari Chulin Shchutin Bachot Ein Mitamim Vafil Shlei Bachshira Koin Oiv Treifa Sheshachta. The Mastis Likaman, and this is the point that we said that Dr. Rashi is our mayor. The Mitar Treifa Oiv Shchuta Umuki Treifa. And what's a Treifa? The Chsev Bechral Ach Joshel Muti Befnim. So we have to see that the Gemara is going to develop this detail. But I asked the Gemara, I don't understand. ID v'ID psulim ninu. But says the Gemara with regard to kachim, both the shchita of kachim of an oif inside and outside are both basal. So it asks the Gemara, so therefore it should yes get a din of a nevela, and it should yes be metam of God the beis abliya. Amar Rava, explains Rava, emo ilu lai shchitas chutz l'chayvai kares. If this shchita does indeed do something, that if you shecht kachim ba'achutz, the halacha is you're chayiv kares. You shechted a carbon outside the Beis HaMikdash. Loi tayo loi tahayra midei nevela should not effectively do something that what? That the carbon is not going to be a nevela. Says Gemara, okay, actually, and chutz, but pinim minal, what do you know about inside? So says the Gemara, you know what? So we can apply the rule that it's not the same. Not like we just said that it didn't have the same halachim if nimi b'chutz. Responds the Gemara, if you're saying Yeshua Molach, kachim b'chutz, nami loy. If the kohen does the malika of the kachim b'chutz, it should also not be tamei. If it doesn't go one way, it doesn't go the other way. So says the Gemara, our old liman is seemingly out the window because they're not equal inside and outside. Amar Rav Simi Barashi, 8 lines from the bottom of the Amid. Done in davar shalei bech sheir mi davar shalei bech sheiroi. Vein done in davar shalei bech sheir mi davar shalei bech sheiroi. Says the Gemara, no, it's not a kasha. The Joshua doesn't go both ways. Really? V'loi. V'atani minayin liyoytze shemalo liyared. Shari yoytze kasher bibama. Answers Gemara, Tana, Zayis Teres Ha'ila, Riba, Samach Le, we have an extra drasha. We continue with the Mishnah on the bottom of the Amid. Malika is performed in Imzis Treifa, and the bird is found to be a Treifa, Rabbi Meir Oimer. Ein mitama. Bebeis Abliya does not get the din of an avila. You did yours. The fact that the animal happens to be a Treifa still will not be mitame begadim like an avila, nor will it be mitame bebeis abliya. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda argues mitame. Says Rabbi Yehuda, deed is mitame. So explains Rabbi Meir. Oh, my Rabbi Meir, I'll tell you why it's not mitame on the top line. Samot asim bebeis kavachaymer. Nevilas beim Hashem mitame b'mago masa. It's yes mitame. Yet, what's the din about a nevela shchita? Asa mitaheres. Treifasa mitumasa. But if it's a treifa, it's tamei. So therefore, says Rabbeir, nevelas ha'oif she'enoi mitame b'mago b'masa. It's not true. It's not as chomer as a behema that the nevela is mitame b'mago b'masa. So then certainly, says Rabbi Meir, Einoi din shechidasa mitarasai. The shechita should be mitarit. Responds Rabbi Meir, shchitasai mitarasai treifasai mitumasai. But if it's a treifa, it should be mitame. So responds the Gemara, ma motinu b'shchitasai shehi mechsherasai lachila. The shchita allows you to eat it. Mitarasai umitaras treifasai mitumasai af malikasai she mechsher b'achila titaher treifasai mitumasai. Says the Gemara, if it's working to allow you to eat it, it should also work not to be mitame. Rabbi Yosi Aimer, Daya. Says Rabbi Yosi, no. Daya kinivlas behema, it's enough to be like the nevela of a behema, shchitasa mitarasa, veloi malikasa, only the shchita, and not the malika. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Says the Gemara, seemingly the Mishnah ended off with a nice taina. Rabbi Yosi ended off with a taina. That why are we saying Dayoi? Why are we saying this concept that it's enough? That the din of the nevela of the oif should have the same din of the nevela of a behema. So responds the Gemara, does Rameir argue on this whole yisoid? V'Rameir loy darish Dayoi. But Daya daraisahu. Can't say that. Din of Daya is a vada daraisa. Titania, as we've learned in Abraisa, and this is the concepts that we've seen, that of course you can't negate the concept of Dayoi. Midin kal v'chaymer, Kate said, what does it mean, says the Braisa? Midin kal v'chaymer. Because says the Torah that if the father spits in her face, would she not be mevuyash? Kal v'chaymer l'shchina. Certainly the Shechina, if the father spits, is an embarrassment for 7 days. Kavachaymer the Shechina, arba'as yaim. Kavachaymer, that the teichacha of the Shechina shall require 14 days. So why not? Eladayo leva min adin. Leo is kinidon. And therefore, we're only going to allow for 7 days. But what do we see? We see that the concept of Dayoi is a concept d'oraisa. So Rameir can't argue boifin klali in the macro, in the general sense, on the concept of Dayoi. So rather, what must Rameir hold? Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yosi Rav Avin, Rameir kra ashkach ukedarsh. Rameir found a pasuk and he darshed it. Zois Torah sabehema ve'oiv. This is the Torah of the behema and the oif. What Torah is this that a behema and an oif are going to be equal? The oif lebehema, and as well an oif will be equal to a behema. Behema metam magav masa, and behema is metam if you touch it, if you carry it. Oif metam magav masa, and on the flip side, oif metam megadim abeis abliyah. Behema metam megadim abeis abliyah. So in what way is it that the oif and the behema are indeed comparable? You know what it teaches me? Just like the behema is something which is kosher to eat, mitaher, treifasai mitumasai. Just like in the case of the behema, that which allows you to eat it is that which makes it an ice nevela. That which makes it, it's not it does not have tumas nevela. Af oif tavshem achshav achila metar trafasai meitum asai. So that's how Rameir is going to learn. Not that he argues on Dayoi, but he has another drasha teaching us his din. Rav Yehuda, what's Rav Yehuda going to respond? Kra ashkav kadarish. Rav Yehuda also has a pasuk. My time across kadarish nevelos treifa. Says the Gemara nevela treifa. Rav Yehuda treifa lama neemra im treifa chaya. If a treifa can live, then it's not going to be tamei. Hari nevela amora im treifa ina chaya rei bechlal nevela. So says the Gemara, I don't understand why we need two words in the pasuk of nevela and treifa. Ella, you know what the Torah is teaching us? Says Rabbi Yehuda, lahavi treifa sheshachta mitret sheshchata shemitama. That the shchita, and it teaches us that it is mitame bebeis habaliyah, then nevela will have a din of tumas beis habaliyah. That's how Rav Yehuda learns. So Amrle Rav Shizvi, so Rav Shizvi asked Rav Yehuda, 1 second. Elameyat, Zevachim nevela chilav treifa. Hasam nami nema and treifa chayari nevela muram treveina chayari v'chlal nevela. So similarly, why don't you ask the same kasha, Rav Yehuda? Why does the Torah say nevela and treifa? Says Gemara lahavi treifa shachta. So what are you going to tell me? That why does the Torah say it as such? To teach us that a treifa that one shechted, shecholva tahar, that the milk of that animal will be tahar. Mechlal, what does that infer? Shtehi, that if you're telling me that the milk is tahar, that infers that what? That the animal itself is mitame. But wait, V'chiyama says the Torah min ha-behema from the animal. Makes us behema mitama, makes us behema einay mitame. He says zuzu treifa sheshachta. That's not going to be mitame. So what's going on over here? Ella, with this we conclude, says the Gemara, treifa mi bayile. You know we need the word treifa for them. Ute tuma mute timeya. Misha yesh b'mina treifa yatzazu she'ein b'mina treifa. It comes along to be memayet, a temeya that doesn't have bimina within its min, a treifa. Hachanami lemute oiv tame she'in biminai treifas, a biminai treifa. There's no such thing as a treifa in its min, and therefore that's how we're going to learn the psukim. But the Gemara now is stuck. So says the Gemara, we don't have extra words to darshan like Rav Yehuda says. So says the Gemara, if Tamei Rav Yehuda min nevela nafkalei. He learns it out from nevela. Ditanya Rav Yehuda imer yachal te nevela soif Tamei mi tumas begadim abeis tabliya tamloimer navlo treifa lo yoichal nevela treifa lo yoichal. So mi sheisurai misham bal toichal nevela, that which you can't eat only because it's a nevela, that's when it applies. But rather what? Rather el misham bal teichal tamei. We'll stop over here. We'll pick it up at the top of Daf Ayin the next year. B'siyata dishmaya.